Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining this session. So today we all have assembled here to take part and listen to a very insightful and relevant panel discussion, that is success factors of enterprise agility. So before starting the panel discussion, on behalf of our esteemed team of panel members, I would like to thank ANI for giving us this platform to discuss on this very topic and get some insight out of it. So without wasting time, as Priyank suggested, we would like to request all our panel members to introduce themselves with their current roles and relevant experience. Priyank, would you like to share the thanks? So let me quickly introduce myself. So I've got around 17 plus years of IT experience with around 10 plus years of Agile experience. So I've been into this coaching and consulting and have supported around 100 plus projects of different capacity, right, for their successful agile transformation. I have played multiple roles, right, project management, scrum masters and other thing, but recently moved full time into enterprise agile coaching, and I'm supporting, I'm working for CGI currently. So apart from agile, right, I have got deeper interest in design thinking and DevOps, and doing a little bit of consulting on those areas as well. So with this, I'll probably pass to our next panelist, Aniruddha Gui. Aniruddha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Shubho. Am I audible all right to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining. And really glad to be here. I'm Anirudh. I've been in this industry for the last 17 years. I'm currently working as a director with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and for the last 12 years, I have been working with various agile frameworks. I've been learning a lot from the community, either through different conferences like this or different certification programs that I have gone through. The objective was to learn more and more and interact more and more with this community with the similar mindset. So for the last 12 years of learning journey have taken me here today, and for the last few years I've particularly been passionate in coaching and mentoring teams and organization units for adopting and transformation into their agile journey. Really glad to be here today. Looking forward for a learning experience. So thanks for having me. Over to you, Shiva.
Yeah. Yeah, Mohana, would you like to introduce yourself? Thanks, Aniruddha. Mohana, would you like to unmute yourself? I think you're talking on mute. Yeah, thanks.
I'm a seasoned professional of 25 years with various exposure and hands-on experience in managing all aspects of business. My foray into IT has been over the last 12 years in running my own business. It's a very small little company called Value Care, where we do very interesting things. I'm an enthusiast and evangelist of disruptive innovation, and anything which is of the future interests me, whether it is AI, whether it is machine learning, RPA, IoT, bots. Social mobile analytics clouds has already become a thing of the past. Today, what concerns the world most is security, an agile way of getting to do anything, and that includes e-governance as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona. Shunanta, would you like to take?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rupa. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. I'm Shananda Pal. I have been around in this industry for almost close to 20 years now, working primarily with the banking and financial sectors, have managed multiple complex transformation programs across the globes of different sizes of customers, starting from very small and fintech companies to even large companies. And other than my interests in technology and program management, I have been practicing Agile for almost close to 10 years now, and worked on different kind of different methodologies, so to say. And welcome to all of you once again to the session. Hope you enjoy it. Over to you,
Thank you,
Shubha.
Shananda. Shiranjan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Shiva. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I see this as a very good opportunity, the same with me, So myself, Shuranjan Nandi, I'm working as a project manager in IBM. I have total of 22 plus years of experience and in different roles and industries, I've handled the project management, consulting role, architect, designer, developer, as a business analyst as well, I've got extensive exposure in client projects. I mean, I was fortunate to get, opportunity to work directly with client on different levels at their, different executives and VP levels. I have a keen interest on cloud services, mobile data analytics. I do practice a lot of analytics myself, hands-on. And I have started my agile practice basically a long back, in 2010, when agile itself was on very initial state, and I consider myself as very passionate agilist. That's all I have as an introduction.
Thank you. Thanks all. So thanks once again to all our esteemed panelists for giving us a nice introduction. So before starting the panel discussion, let's try to understand the topic a little bit so that it would be easier for all of us to follow the panel discussion. So while Agile involves in one or two teams, right, working on a part of the product, enterprise agility may involve dozens, even hundreds of teams working on a whole enterprise solution, right? In this disruptive environment, it is becoming a need of the hour that all the organizations should move to and should try to adopt enterprise agility or enterprise agility as a whole. And if we do not do that, and when we run into it, right, we are facing a lot of challenges at the while actually embracing this enterprise agility. Couple of them, I'm sure, like our esteemed panelists are going to help us to understand the challenges, the driving factors, and all those stuff. While we may want to remain agile, we need to start with at least a unified vision and have a system in place that enables the team to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate efficiently and effectively to bring the vision to execution and improve on the vision into through innovation, right? So keeping long story short, enterprise agility means ability to adopt, easily to change. In the business perspective, agility refers to a distinct quality that allows institutions and corporations to respond rapidly to change. It is the ability and capability of a system to respond rapidly to a certain modification by adapting its inceptive and stable configuration. So with this a short introduction, I would like to invite our first panelist, right, to share his vision on or share his idea or thoughts on what is enterprise agility. Aniruddha, would you like to share your view on what is enterprise agility?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Shiva. Yes, of course, very relevant question, of course, for this topic today. See, if something that I have understood in my whole years of experience is that the central idea is always going to remain as running our business successfully. That is never going to change. All our efforts, no matter what we do, all our activities are going to be centered around that. Now, these days we operate in a VUCA world, and that is changing every day, and it demands us to Mohana, maybe if you can just there's an echo going on, so I'm muting the okay. Sure. So sorry for that. So as we are all operating in a VUCA world, that is changing continuously, and it's not only changing itself, but it demands us to adapt to these changes, and that's the question of business agility. which is how quickly and how aptly we can adapt to these changes, as you were mentioning, Shubho. Now, when you ask me about enterprise agility, I look at enterprise agility as the enabler for this business agility. So our business agility is the objective. Enterprise agility is the means to achieve that objective. That's how I look at it. And when you look at an enterprise, because enterprise is a big concept to grasp. So when we look at an enterprise, I look at enterprise from three dimensions. One, my customers. Second, my workforce. And third is the culture. I would like to briefly explain this three dimension for everybody to understand what I actually mean by this three. See, when we are running our business, we are producing some products and services, which I want to take to my customer to sell, right? If they like my product, they buy it. If they like my service, they pay for it. And that's how my service done. It's a classic demand and supply model. No, nothing changes over there. Now, so that's my customer remains an important dimension of my enterprise. The second is the workforce. If I have to produce this product or services, I need talented individuals, talented workforce to produce this. If I cannot retain them, if I cannot meet their expectations, my business is going to suffer. So the second important dimension is workforce. And the third is this customer demographic and this workforce demographic. When they interact in the interactions within them or outside world, that forms the culture of my enterprise. How my enterprise encourages or facilitates, nurtures or nourishes this interaction. Right, so that's the third dimension, and an enterprise may get affected. Changes may get triggered from any of these three dimensions that I just mentioned. Enterprise agility, if we have to look at, is the ability of the enterprise to sustain and respond to this changes which is coming from all these three directions. It can be one, or it can be a combination of this dimensions that I mentioned. But enterprise agility would be my enabler to sustain and phase that. That is how I look at enterprise agility.
Thank you so much. Yeah, rightly said that enterprise agility is basically an enabler for the business agility. And whenever we are talking in terms of the VUCA world where things are changing very fast, it is very important that we try to adapt to the changes. And rightly said, Aniruddha, that you have touched upon three very important dimensions, right? The business, first thing, the customer centricity, a very good balanced demand and supply model. Of course, like we cannot leave the workforce or the talent, and most importantly the enterprise culture. And we all know that whenever there is a culture change, it happens the very last moment, right? Because it takes a long time to change that culture. And again, yeah, sustain and respond is the keyword. And I mean, one or two or many combinations of these dimensions may play a major role, like whenever we are trying to enterprise or embrace this enterprise agility. I would like to request any other panelists, like if you want to share any of your thoughts on or any views on the enterprise agility before we go to the next discussion. Shuranjan, you may
Yeah,
want to just
Shiva, I
share
can.
your thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can add one example from real life, because I hear, what Aniruddha has said is I mean, bringing things on the enterprise level, right? Unless we can bring all the department. When we say enterprise, what that means, right? We have different. I mean, in any organization, we have different departments. Let's say purchase department, invoicing department, or finance department, or maybe a center of excellence, multiple departments, right? And then IT departments. Unless all the departments or all the subunits work together to bring that agility among themselves, we cannot go for enterprise agility, right? And the example is, I have seen, one of the organization, they try to bring simple project management in the enterprise wide. What that means is, If you have, if you, I mean, in an organization, on an average, a lot of projects run parallel, right? And we have different project managers. They maintain their own projects. They have their own resource set, and those resources are normally shared across enterprise or shared across organization. So if a project manager has their own project resources and not able to show them at the enterprise level, I mean, we lose a lot of traction. We don't get the visibility on the enterprise level. So to do that, what that organization has done is they brought up a enterprise wide view on all the project resources, so that at any point of time we can see, who is available or who is overstressed, whom we can assign to some other project. So that's kind of, practice our organization need to bring in when they talk about enterprise agility, right? So visibility is very much important when we talk about agility. So
Thank you,
over to
Shiranjan. So
Shiva.
you added a new dimension to it. Yeah. So you added a new dimension to it, that bringing all the aspects or all the maybe security, HR, our infrastructure, everything into this agility, not only focusing only on the IT. Now,
Correct.
if I recollect, so, Aniruddha also talked about VUCA world, right? So considering or taking that cue from that conversation, I would like to request Shunanda to help us understand more on, right, why business agility is important in today's VUCA world. Shunanda, would you like to share your views on that?
Yeah, sure, Shubha. So just we were talking about the business agility, the enterprise agility, right? Anirudh and Suranjan brought out some very important points that we need to look at, right? Couple of things that Anirudh mentioned is looking at the customer, looking at the workforce, looking at the culture, right? So three very important segments. And then if you look at the technology or the IT part of it, which Suranjan was talking about, right? So we all of these aspects, these are bringing about the changes in and around us, right? So world over, if you see, there are technology shifts happening, there are customer behaviors which are changing, there are new competitors which are, coming into the market, right? And it's happening much faster and in an aggressive mode than ever, right? And more diverse way also. And this is why, business agility is extremely important now, because unless you are able to override these disruptive trends and challenge the old way of working, the old paradigm, right, the old culture changes, you will not be able to thrive in this kind of a market, right? Just take for example the recent current situation that all of us are going through, right? COVID-19 situation. Did any of us think that this will come up? None of us could see it coming, right? But do you think that we are not doing great in this? In fact, if we look at different kind of reports that are coming out, we world over, we are actually doing fantastic when it comes to the agility, right? This agility or agile maturity has increased almost 15% across the world, except just North America. North America there are different factors where there has been some changes or reduction in the business agility, but overall around the world, 15% business agility has increased. This is as per of a very recent report. And in fact, if we just look at the Asian market or the PAC region, right, there even the maturity is much more, way more than 15%. It's close to about 25%, right? And if you just think about the situations, right, just let's take the example of say Amazon. Before the pandemic, you didn't have an Amazon pantry, right? They were not into the grocery selling and the grocery delivery business, right? But they immediately took that opportunity and got it set up within just a couple of days' time, right? But again, Amazon is a big company, so they had the infrastructure, they could do that, they were prepared for their business agility, right? So it's also about the mindset, and it's also about thriving in this kind of a disruptive situation, right? So if you look at your local vendors, if you look at your local, say, vegetable vendor, or your local, the milkman or the milk vendor, right? Even they kind of prepared themselves, their business, to thrive during this COVID situation, right? They all registered through Swiggy or some other delivery situations, and they have coped up with it. So the point here is it's about the mindset. It's about the culture change that we are talking about, right? So we don't have a choice here. It's become a necessity in this VUCA world. And, organizations, individuals, enterprises, we all have to be ready to be, you know, we will come across all this disruptive, be it on the technology side or be it on the environment side. We will just need to be extremely ready so that we build our resilience and we are able to cope up with this kind of a situation whenever it comes. That's what the business agility is all about, right? Over to you, Shubha. Shubha, you seem to be on mute.
Very rightly said that IT will there, the demands are changing, the speed is changing. Am I audible?
Yes, now you are audible.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so the new competitions are coming with greater speed and diversity, right? And as you rightly pointed out, after this COVID-19, we have seen a new normal, right? So we have seen a new way of working, and it is the demonstration of real agility, right? You have given that example of Amazon Pantry, and we have also seen the other digital platforms, right, which actually came up in these situation and started growing their business. And we have seen the, if we go to college, if you go to university, if you go to school, and we are seeing everywhere, we are seeing the how they are adapting to the new situation. So that's truly like adapting agility, right, in this VUCA world. So with these, yeah, of course, like there are some driving factors. Like whenever you talked about the pandemic, you talked about the VUCA, but apart from that, there might be some other driving factors, right, which might be needing or which might be a trigger point for adopting enterprise agility. So I would like to invite Shuranjan to reflect some light on some of the driving factors of adopting enterprise agility. Shuranjan, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Shubha. Yeah, when we talk about the factors, right, what are making us or what are compelling us to move into this enterprise agility, right? I can see 3 points very specifically, from my side. I mean, it can be my views, but, well, let me explain. So I consider three factors. One is speed to market. Okay, I'll explain what is a speed to market. Then I also consider the people who are engaged in that journey. And third one is any emergency thing like COVID, right? I mean, we should be ready for that also. So where enterprise agility really makes a lot of sense. Those kind of a three factors I consider are the major factors which drives the enterprise agility. Now, if I take one by one, I said speed to market. What is speed to market? Now, if you see the way organization behave, right? They go by the business demands, and the business demands are always kind of a demanding thing. They do not. Earlier, we used to have 9 month or 12 months plan, right? By when things will be up and running. But nowadays, business are so competitive. They want the speed into the market. How soon they can reach to the market, how soon they can bring the product to the market. If you take any example of a mobile, right? See how fast they are upgrading their OS, how fast the apps which are changing, right? They don't even wait for a 3 months or 6 month window. Rather, they are pushing their updates every now and then, right? There are studies how soon, different like Facebook, Amazon, how soon they do their deployments, right? So that kind of a thing, speed to market is very, very important, and which is basically pushing us or pushing the organization to really adapt to the enterprise agility, right? Otherwise, it's not easy to cope up with the business demands or really answer to the speed that market is looking for. Okay. Second one, I would go in the people. People meaning the resources, employees, stakeholders who are involved, right? Um, we are seeing that the new generation who are coming into the organization, right? We call them millennials or the Z people, right? So these people they are already having some mindset that, I mean, they're not thinking waterfall, or they're not thinking big bang I mean theory. They're also thinking of microservices, small pieces, and then integrate. They think of DevOps. They are already ready. It's the mindset we need to change on the existing employees, right? So it's a mix. So employees are there where we have mix of new millennials and also the mix of the generation who have seen the hard part of it, right? So there we will require a cultural shift or mindset change, we say, or agile thinking. That's very important, and that's also kind of a factor which is asking organization to really adapt to the enterprise agility. Otherwise, we will lose employees. We will lose their interest, because they have of different mindset. Okay. And third one, which I said, is the unforeseen situations like COVID. I think Shunanda touched on how COVID is making us or compelling us to really move into the enterprise agility mindset, right? So we have seen organization has gone down overnight, right? When this COVID really hit us, there are a lot of organizations on the positive side who have sustained and who are growing faster than ever before, right? And whoever are growing faster, if you go in their studies, they were able to bring things very quickly. Like I know the example of organization. When it comes to everybody used to go to office, work, and then come home, right? But COVID made us work remote. And this thing, although we say working remote, things were not that easy, right? I have seen organization moving their whole workforce of 10,000 resources from office to remote in a day of 5. So within 5 days they were able to bring them. When you think, you may think, okay, I have a laptop, I can go home and work. But things were not that easy. You need to go for connectivity, you need to make communication to client, you need to make communication with all the project team members, you may have a printer requirement, you may have office connect, you are having daily meetings, lot of things, lot of logistics, lot of administration has to go. So those companies who were able to move quickly, they kind of sustain. Who were not able to move quickly, they were shut off behind those closed doors. And I know some organization who came after the lockdown and they said, hey, you know what? My documents are there in the office, and my office is locked. I cannot respond to your requirement. So that kind of a thing, we see mix and matches, but the idea is people or organization who are moving, who are adapting to the enterprise agility are more towards in the winning picture, or more towards in the sustaining business. That's all. Shubha.
Can I add one thing here?
Thank you.
Sure, Ranjan.
Aniruddha, you want to add something?
Yeah, because it was very interesting hearing what Shunanda and Shuranjan were saying, that they were giving so many examples, and there was a common theme. If you observe, I just want to share that observation when I was listening to both of them. The key theme that they were talking about, all those examples, if you see, the underlying is innovation. That how quickly we are innovating to sustain ourselves, to survive, right? What Shuranjan was taking various ways, or Sunanda was giving different examples of the different organizations and enterprises coming up with new ideas. Although the theme is that people are trying to innovate as much as possible, as quickly as possible, and implement that innovation for survival. I think this is what is required not only in the current situation, but what we need to understand is that if we can sustain this even after this situation, right? If we are able to do this, if we are capable of doing this, if after doing this we are going to get some tangible benefits, why only to do it in a pandemic situation? Why not to build up that infrastructure within our enterprises so that we can actually continue that when even this pandemic is over? That is where I think enterprise agility can actually help, because the type of agility that is required to do this innovation quickly, do the implementations and POCs and take it to the market, take it to the customers, or even implement for our own new ways of working. Enterprise agility can be the key to actually help you continue this even beyond pandemic situation. So I think that should be the theme, innovation, and the enabler should be enterprise agility. That's what I observed while I was listening to Sunanda and Suranjan. So I just wanted to share that thought. So it's very interesting. Thank you for sharing all that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. And not only that, like just taking a cue from what you just said, a lot of organization found that it is becoming more profitable, right? So in this new way of working, not only that, it is becoming innovative to sustain in the marketplace, but now they are realizing if they can continue, like as Aniruddha rightly mentioned, even if the pandemic goes over, they are deciding probably not to go back to the normal situation. And some of the big organizations have decided to continue in this mode, and probably they will have some future plan, right, to continue in this new way of working. Thank you so much for this insight. So now we have learned about a little bit on the enterprise agility. We have understood different dimensions of enterprise agility. We have understood how enterprise agility can help us, right, in this pandemic situation. Of course, like we have understood some of the driving factors, but yes, it is not so easy to implement enterprise agility. So let us try to understand from Mohana, right, what are the 2-3 challenges you are facing before that prompted you to try enterprise agility? Definitely, like of course, like there had been some driving factors which Shuranjan rightly mentioned. So what are the typical challenges, right, that we face, right, when we try to implement enterprise agility? Mohana, you'd like to share your views on that? The challenges, we are not able to hear you somehow.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Agility is, what does it mean? The English word agility means adapt and adopt, and yes, transform. It's not easy. And somewhere it is about, letting go, empowering your team to take decisions on the go without really reverting back for every little change that is required. It's a question of mindset. Shunanda pointed out about our vegetable vendors and the milkman adapting to change. They switched over to Swiggy for delivery and Paytm for payment. They were empowered to take their own decision. They didn't have a choice in the matter. They had to survive. So what happens is naturally, in a very robust organizations, which large enterprises are likely to become, decisions have to come top down. When that becomes embroiled in red tape, it takes very, very long for any change to happen. Small organizations are by default agile. People have to multi-hat, multitask. You don't have a choice in the matter but to do it all, take decisions on time. And maybe there is only one person at the decision-making level to, approve or reject any particular suggestion that comes from the team. In a larger organization, this becomes very difficult. And as I said, it gets embroiled in a lot of red tape, a lot of communication back and forth before anything gets going. When when we get to the, our recent pandemic situation, teams have had to become agile without a choice in the matter. So larger organizations, just to reinvent themselves and stand the test of time, have simply needed to adapt to this new methodology, whether they've liked it or not, whether with all the tools in place or not, they've had to go agile in terms of teams, in terms of infrastructure. It's not been easy. Shuranjan just pointed out, in 5 days flat, 10,000 people all work from home. And yes, there are companies of that size who really realize now work from home does not have to be the new normal. Work from anywhere. If it works for you to come to the office, if it works for you to work from home, saving on commute, spending a lot of quality time with your family and therefore performance enhancing much more, or on the go. Yes, on the go has been a lot less in this pandemic situation because business travel has got completely cut off. However, in times to come, people realize that that's not a challenge anymore. Just because somebody is traveling, a vacation responder does not need to be sent that he's out of office and somebody else is going to have to deal with that till he's back from his business tour in 5 days. At this point of time of having this, this panel discussion, we're not in one place at all. We are having this in a very agile manner. Our audience has tuned in an agile manner, and all of us are collaborating in an agile manner. Absolutely. So these have been realizations I've had, challenges I've had, when getting to the strictly agile method. Yes, being in IT, there have been specific tools used to, kind of achieve our end. Yes. Would any one
Thanks,
of you like
Mona.
to take
Thanks
it up
for
from here?
your insight. Yeah. So, anyone wants to add anything like what Mona has said? Okay, no problem. So we learned about enterprise agility. We understood the driving factors, like how enterprise agility can help with help in this kind of pandemic. Of course, the challenges. Now let's go a little deeper into it, right? And let us try to understand a little bit on the, because so far we have been working with and we have been very successful in adopting team and technical agility, and we have been able to satisfy our customer, as Shuranjan rightly said. Earlier we used to deliver our product maybe in 6 months, 9 months time frame, and now we are shipping the product in maybe just 15 days of time. So, and we have been doing quite well with this team and technical agility. So what are the essential challenges, right, that we face when we are only adopting team and technical agility? So let's hear from our panelist Shunanda, who can probably reflect or who can probably share her views on what challenges did you face with team and technical agility. Shunanda, over to you.
Sure, Shubho. So yeah, like you pointed out, team and technical agility probably is something that we have kind of practiced to get to a stage where we don't face those challenges so much now, right? But if you look at early days when people start adopting the agile ways of working, it is not easy then, right? So it is again coming back to that point that we were discussing about the change in the mindset, change in the working ways, change in the culture, right? So you would, when you are new to agile ways of working, you will hear a lot of comments like, say, we don't do daily scrums, right? So then we don't do kind of retrospectives, or only the team leads are talking in the retrospectives, right? It's not the entire team who is voicing their concerns or voicing the feedback, right? So these kind of things would come up during those early days, right? And the reason why it comes up is because we are still shifting from that mentality or that culture where it's an hierarchical culture, right? You are driven by your lead in your team rather than being a self-organizing team, right? So that's the mindset thing that needs to change when we are talking about team agility, right? And you should not think of Agile being a framework that is being kind of forced onto you, right? It's a supportive framework. It's something that supports you to faster your delivery, faster your time to market, be more efficient in delivering to the customer needs, right? And that's where the team agility is extremely important. If we can go beyond the mindset, the old way of thinking, and that is where I think leaders have a very high stake in this, because they are the ones who should be on board with the agile way of thinking. They should be encouraging the team, empowering the teams to execute, to innovate continuously, right? And also empower them to take the decisions on a regular basis on different things on the ground, right? So that's extremely important when it comes to team agility. Now, talking about the technical agility, right? So if you think about technical agility, we were talking about different kind of disruptive technology changes happening, right? So that has become just every now and then you would see the technology landscape is changing, right? And if we don't adapt to that change, what happens? We just perish, right? So many product companies you would see, after just being in the market for a couple of years, they struggle to sustain their existence, because they have not embraced that technical agility. They are not moving as fast as the technology is moving ahead, right? Just look at the example of Nokia, for example, right? So Nokia and even BlackBerry, for that matter. There was a time when everyone used to be so comfortable using these phones, right? But within a span of few years, Nokia's market share was just reduced by 90%, right? And that's because one of the major reason for that downfall was definitely that they did not have that technical agility that was required, which uh, the likes of iPhone or Samsung was bringing in. Okay, you will have to be continuously listening to the customer's need. What is changing from the technology standpoint? The technology enables you to provide what the customer needs, right? If you are not adapting to those changes, to the technology trends, you are not technically agile, and you will not be able to continue or survive. Right. That's I think in a gist is my viewpoint about team and technical agility. Anyone wants to add any
Thank
points to
you.
that?
Thanks, Shunanda, for sharing your views on that. Yes, you're absolutely right. So we started, and when we tried to adopt the team agility, right, we found there are a lot of resistance to change, right, because people probably did not realize the empowerment, because they have been always under the kind of leadership centralized decisions. So all of a sudden, decentralized decision making like made things transparent. And of course, like again, it was very difficult to adopt a pull culture where we are kind of accustomed with a push culture, right? These are some of the cultural and the mindset changes, right, we found whenever we are adopting the team agility. And rightly said, again, on the technical agility, like in these disruptive technology changes happening, and now we cannot, like earlier we could easily survive with an I-shaped skill people, because now things are changing and we cannot just only sustain with I-shaped skill people. We probably need to add a lot more skill set, right, in our kitty, right? We try to become T-shaped skill and become pie-shaped skill, right? So otherwise it will be very difficult to sustain. And thanks for sharing that Nokia BlackBerry example. Of course, like, so customer centricity becomes very, very important. So we were thinking that the PO is the product owner is the person like who can give us the requirement. So now there is again a need to shift left, right, to understand the needs of the customer, like how they are thinking, how their demands are changing. And that's why probably the design thinking is also becoming a key aspect of new agility. So now that you have helped us to understand a little bit on the team and technical agility, I would like to be a
Shubho,
bit specific. Yes, go ahead,
Shubho, maybe,
Shuranjan.
yeah, maybe I remember one area
Yes,
on the
yes, yes,
technical
yes. Go
agility,
ahead.
right? Yeah, on the technical agility, right? when we talk about agility, like Shunanda said, we also support them with different tools and enablers. Like we talk about DevOps. In DevOps, you are really thinking basically end to end, right? End to end, once starting from requirement to deployment, right? Production support. Another thing is earlier, like you mentioned, T-shape, I-shape kind of a resourcing, right? We often hear nowadays, full stack developer. What that mean, right? Earlier, if you go, this is a fortunate thing in a small scale organization. Employees get to know a lot of things, right? But when we move to bigger organization, you are specific to a specific area, right? You may be working only on database, or you may be working only on the front end part, right, or the web development part. But see, things are coming back, right? Nowadays we don't entertain, or we don't appreciate if somebody is saying I know only the database, right? We are thinking about full stack developer, meaning you need to know the database, you need to know front end, you need to know API coding, you basically need to know everything, right? That's also agility on the technical front, right? You should be agile to adapt to any technology. You should be agile to learn new technology. You should be willing to explore yourself, right? So that's how so that's basically goes to the mindset also. So you need to be very flexible and ready to learn.
Absolutely.
And
Bang on. Go
And
ahead.
Suranjan, there's one saying that we very commonly use is that don't stay with one technology, because that technology is not going to stay with you, and that's something that is
Yeah,
done. So yeah, because even if you and I want to stay with one technology, one framework, that technology is not going to stay with us. It's going to go.
right,
Something else is
right,
going to come.
right.
Yeah, I mean that's inevitable. Yeah, very good point. Thank
Correct.
Yeah. Thanks, Shuranjan and Aniruddha for sharing your point. And now, I would like to hear more from Aniruddha, right? So does that mean that the team and technical agility are going to go away? So are we going to give up the Scrum, Kanban, XP, right? Whenever we are trying to embrace enterprise agility. So if you like to share, like how enterprise agility gel with our conventional agile framework like Scrum or Kanban or XP or maybe any other scaling model. So how these things can gel well, right, to give us the final result. So would you like to share, Aniruddha, your point of view?
Sure, sure. Interesting. No, nothing is going to go away. That's how I like to say. And why do I think that? Because, see, it will essentially mean agility at all stages of the enterprise. It not means in any silo. That's why we talk about it. That's why it is so important, because keeping agility in a silo didn't go anywhere. That's where failures started happening, and people started, we have to scale it up. We have to bring it to all other sections as well. Otherwise, it's not going to work only in a single team. But even if it is the agile being at all stages of the enterprise, the building block is going to remain the team. If you look at any survey report of which deals with agility, say for example the latest State of Agile report, the 14th State of Agile report, which is the oldest agile survey that happens annually. They are also all the enterprises who are at a reasonably successful stage of their agile transformation. They report that they have self-organizing autonomous agile teams. That's how they describe their team. They are the organizations which are doing really great in their agile transformation journey. Now, this self-organizing autonomous teams, what is important is that they should be empowered to make their decisions. Their ultimate objective is to adapt the agile values and principles. Now, how they do that is not going to be the same from one team to another team. Because when we are talking about enterprise agility, it's not only software development that we are talking about. We are talking about agility in the operations team, IT team, HR, procurement, finance, all of that. And they are the same framework may not apply to all these depending on their deliverables. It may change. The important factor to understand here is that we cannot throw away this framework, mainly because that this framework are the catalyst where they already have got these agile values and principles integrated within it. It's only going to into things. That's why if you look at the again look at the state of agile report, Scrum is the highest percentage of people who report Scrum as being their framework of use, almost 58%, more than half of them. It is followed by many other frameworks. What interesting to observe there as well is that after this 58% of people using farm, 58% of enterprises reporting to be using farm Scrum, the others are many. The ones that follow it are hybrid processes like Scrum Bun or Scrum XP or things like that. Those are some of those hybrid frameworks that are getting reported after Scrum. And the percentages of XP or percentages of Kanban is relatively smaller than those hybrid ones. What it reflects to me is that those teams are adapting themselves, making their decision that what fits them best to do their work. As I mentioned in my very first thing, the central idea is to make sure your business is running successfully. So the team should be autonomous and self-organizing and empowered to make their choices and decisions of what works best for them. Most of the enterprises, if you look at who are good in, again, very successful in their agile journey, Google, Amazon, in fact, Spotify, Spotify, everybody, a lot of talk about Spotify these days, right? If we look at the Spotify framework also, the squads are not locked down with any one framework. It is said that they are agile teams. They will choose to use a framework, but which framework, that is up to them. That's the same thing. Even if we look at Safe exists before Spotify. Even look at Safe. The agile teams in the within are not any specific agile team, but they are using some framework or the other, which they decide. And that is how I think this Scrum or XP or Kanban or any other framework, even if you even an organization makes a hybrid, or an organization comes up with something of their own, like Spotify, which becomes then a phenomenon outside world. Everything will be driven by their need and will be decided by their own discretion. That's how it is going to play the role in the overall enterprise agility. That's what I think.
Rightly said. Yeah, so I would like to just share one example, like what you said. Like in my coaching career, when we have this conversation with different teams, so I asked this question many a time to the different teams when probably we were teaching Kanban or teaching Scrum or anything, any specific. So I was just asking this question to different teams: how many of you believe that we have been following pure Scrum? And believe me, none of the team responded yes, because they believe that yes, their teams are following some bit of Scrum. Of course, Scrum has the maybe basic, some of maybe Kanban, little bit of capacity driven planning, and of course some bit of XP, right? Like whenever they are adopting some of the technical practice. So rightly said by Aniruddha that none of these team or technical agility framework are going to go away. So consider any of this enterprise scaling methodology. So whether it is a Spotify or a Scrum, sorry, Spotify or Safe or any other framework for that matter, everywhere at team level, they are empowered to take decision, right? Which framework they're trying to adopt, right? And not all, or not a particular framework will be having all the positives, right? Depending on the need, they can probably switch and they can take the decision. So wonderful. So in the interest of time, right, let's try to understand some of the key takeaways, right, out of this discussion. And I would like to probably go to Mohana, right? If you can share what our audience, right? Some of the key 3-4 takeaways, what our audience would take away, right, out of this overall enterprise agility success factor discussion. Over to you, Mohana.
Right. Number one, we need to understand that change is the only constant, and we need to keep reinventing ourselves to keep relevant. Earlier methods were necessarily in silos. We need to have the freedom for teams to choose their own methodologies in how they choose to go forward. However that is, at the end of the day, one has to adopt some methodology, or as Aniruddha pointed out, hybrid methodologies to as the chosen method to go forward. Right. Shubho, you take it forward.
Thank you, Mona. Yes, so rightly said. So change is the only constant, right? And unless and until like we are adapting, right, we will be probably perish, and nobody wants to do that. So whether we need to be purist or whether we need to be need to adopt hybrid, right? So yeah, of course we need to take a decision at the right moment, right, so that we can sustain and we should not be perishing, right, in the moving forward. As Shunanda was giving some example of Nokia and BlackBerry, so those who are able to adapt to the current situation, understanding the demand, understanding the competition, those will survive, others will perish, and nobody probably wants to do that. So Shunanda, would you like to share your 3-4 unique your views, right, on the key takeaways of today's discussion for our audience?
Yeah, sure, Shubho. And while I do that, I will probably try and touch upon some of the factors. I see there is a question related to what are the important factors to be considered for the transformation, right? So I will try and touch upon the points which will also be very important for any transformation journey, be it for the enterprise or the business or even for individual for that matter. Right. So when it comes to the enterprise level, one thing which is particularly important is to define the strategy, right? So where do you want to go? How do you want to go? Right? Distill that clear strategy and the purpose and share it with your entire organization, drilling down to the lowest level, the atomic level of the team, so that they are clear on what the strategy is and what is it that they are working towards, right? Second point would be uh, help with this shifting in the mindset, the behavior, the culture, right? Keep the customer at the center. Think what are the customers need, because you are here to serve the customer with some product, with some services, and keeping with the technology trends, right? Bringing it to the customers as fast as possible and with a lower cost, right? So it is very important to bring in that shift in the team's behavior and the culture and prepare them so that they keep on challenging the status quo, right? They keep on innovating. They keep on coming up with new ideas, right? That's extremely important. And most of the time, the teams don't want to try something because of failure. So it's very important to give them that safe environment, that psychological safety, where they can try out new things and pivot without any guilt if there is some failure. Try out something new again. So that's very important, right? The third point that I would say is, again, coming back to the technology trends point, follow the technology trends, because that's where you need to invest your people's assets, or also on the infrastructure side. Your learnings and everything needs to go in there from the technology standpoint. And the last point is listen, listen, and listen to your employees, to your partners, to your customers, to everyone, right? If you listen to everyone, you will understand what is the need, where is the market shifting, where is the technology shifting, and continuously adapt and adopt to it. Over to you, Shubha.
Very well said. Very well said. Listen, listen, listen. right? So that's exactly like what is being told as kind of customer centricity. And try something and don't be so passionate about that. As again rightly said, pivot without mercy or guilt. If something is not working, right, don't put too much of your energy. Try to optimize that by switching to a better solution, right? But again, more focus is on the changing business, the changing need of the customer. So that would be one of the key takeaway of today's discussion. So we would like to hear the same thing, same view from Shuranjan. Shuranjan, would you like to share your views on some of the key takeaways of enterprise agility, adopting enterprise agility?
Sure, sure. On the takeaway, Shubho and team, I would talk about three things. For me, those three things are very important if you really, want to go into enterprise agility, or for say, agility. I would say, start with agility, then think of enterprise agility, right? So first thing is vision. So vision is very important, right? So what is that you want to achieve with your enterprise agility practice, or bringing more agility within your organization, right? So the vision is very important. So you need to define your goals. You need to define how you want to achieve, what exactly your outcome should be in future, right? I mean, put some timelines also, right? So define that vision. Second is take the buy-in. uh, what I mean by take the buy-in is, you may be in the middle, right? Most of us, if I say consider or assume, most of us are in the middle. Maybe we have higher management on top of us, or then we have people or employees whom we may be, mentoring or coaching, right? So you need to make sure that you are engaging in your thought process, or in your innovative idea for enterprise agility, bringing the higher management people and taking their buy-in. Otherwise, the risk is, if you really want to learn, want to continue yourself with your team, and there is no support, it's very difficult. Maybe after some time, initially it might look very lucrative. People may jump in into your wagon, but after some time you may realize that you are not getting enough support, and the underlying employees are also losing their interest. So it's very, very important that you get appropriate buy-in from your stakeholders, higher management. Another thing which I always say, I mean that can be, relate to any other topics as well. Learn from failures, right? What that mean? You may not have failed, right? You might not have started, so you might not have failed. But it's very important that at least you go to other organization failure story, or your peers failure story. Look for, you will definitely find failure stories. And fortunately or unfortunately, I have a failure story, where I have seen all things were considered very properly. I mean, stakeholders were there, agile coach was onboarded, teams were given less, coaching classes, requirements were gathered in terms of stories, everything was working fine. But maybe after 5 6 months, what we noticed is that project, the agile project, was scrapped, right? The reason was, we did a root cause analysis also why that happened, right? And what was the failure reason? And the bigger reason was, we did not had a full buy-in from the higher management who were involved there, and for some reason they were not very high also, but middle management, you can say. What happened is also, they were having some fear, and the fear was, if the comes, if the agile come, everything will be transparent and they will have very less control. So rather than understanding the benefit, they rather took it negatively, and that was a major failure. And later on, it's an organization decision, right? They need to continue, and the agile project was scrapped, but the product was delivered through a waterfall. So that's a big failure, right? So we can see why those projects failed, and we can take lesson learned from them. So these are the three takeaways from my side: vision, take buy-in from higher management, and learn from failures. That's all, Shiva.
Nicely summarized, Shuranjan. Yeah, so yeah, that's a very good point. Especially the second point I would like to have. So buy-in from the stakeholders, because sometime when we are doing this transformation, especially in the enterprise agility, people believe that only the bottom layer needs to change, right? And the top layer will still be resilient, like still be kind of with their old mindset, right? They do not need to change, but that's not the case. The change should come from top down, right? And they should be leading the transformation from the front, right? It's not that only the team members will be changing, but
Shubha, there's
the
something I'd like.
managers will be adopting the changes, and they will be controlling. Team members will still be controlling and commanding things, right? In that case,
Shubha, there's something I'd like to add. One of the greatest factors for Agile not working out is the reason the top management needs to empower and let go. That does not happen. And the
Rightly
reason
said.
this does not happen is, the fear of failure.
Hmm.
absolutely.
It's a cost of, it's, reputation is at stake, money is at stake, everything going, for a toss and having to start all over is at stake. And a great example for this is exactly Nokia, as Shunanda pointed out. They
Bang
did
on.
not reinvent themselves. They went out of business. They had to hive their mobile phone business. They're back again. Maybe the Symbian, not on the Symbian platform, but they're back. And what were they doing all this while quietly after having sold their mobile phone business, which was their main flagship, really? All the ISPs that we see around, they're towers, Nokia networks. Nobody talks about it, but silently they were there building their own, getting back to fame. And yes, they're here and they're here to stay. They learned from their, whatever went wrong. This is a great example of business agility. They went out of business, they were completely routed. BlackBerry, no, they're still not back. So it's a great example of how one company choose to reinvent itself from scratch after having really been the only one around for a very long time, and how the other company, who were complete, there was a monopoly in their own area, they have not yet got back. Chances are they will not.
Hey, Mohana, on a
Wonderful
lighter note, I
example.
have an example. On a lighter note, Shiva, I have an example. Nokia got some deal to set up network on Moon, and that's a NASA deal.
Oh,
I did not validate it, but it's on the web. Anybody can search. Type Nokia with NASA, Nokia deal with NASA. You'll find, they are getting a contract for Moon. I don't know what that means.
wonderful. Yeah, so before we open up for the questions, we do see some questions in the chat, and we'll try to address that. So probably a concluding thought from Aniruddha, right? Some of the key takeaways before we open up for the questions.
No, I think it's very. It was quite exhaustive in the way Mohana, Sunanda, and Suranjana said. I can also see a lot of questions over there. Maybe what we can do is that we can quickly switch to the questions,
Yep,
and
yeah,
let's see
you
if
can do
we
that.
have any more time left.
Right. So I see there is a very important question, like how to measure the success of enterprise agility. Any takers for that? What is the metrics to measure the
Yeah.
transformation, or how can we measure the enterprise agility?
Maybe I can take first. Okay.
Go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
What we have seen when we do not have the agility on the enterprise, right? There's a lot of wait time. Wait time meaning finance department may be waiting for purchase department for something, right? Purchase department may be waiting for something on the marketing department, right? Because they are not very agile connected, they are waiting, that's called wait time, right? So when you can bring enterprise agility, we will have more visibility on what's going on, and we can break all the silos, which will help us to reduce the wait time. So one measure which you can do is what is the wait time you are having currently, and what is the wait time you are seeing when you are into enterprise agility journey. So the wait time should reduce. That's the measurement. That's the big measurement, I would say. So if your wait time is reducing between departments to departments, meaning you are on the right path. Yeah, sure.
Any other thoughts on the same question?
Yeah, very rightly said, Suranjan, there. The wait time or the delay time that we often say, be it in production, manufacturing, any kind of industry, right? So, depending on the industry type, depending on what you are actually bringing to the market or to your customers, the parameters might differ, right? As in, the enterprise would probably need to identify a set of quantitative parameters on which they would measure themselves at different frequencies, right? So when they start, say if they are starting with the transformation journey, they decide on some, say, 20 parameters. And then, let's say at a frequency of a quarter or 2 quarters, they keep on measuring those same parameters again and again and see how they are progressing, right? That's extremely important, because this measurement cannot be just once. It has to be monitored gradually to see, how your scores are improving. That's why it's a journey, right? And when you look into these parameters needs to be across multiple dimensions, right? Like what you are delivering to the customer, it could be a product, it could be the service. So your parameters need to be related to that. Definitely the wait time that Chiranjan talked about. Another thing that you should measure is definitely time to the market, right? So again, taking back an example from Amazon story, because Amazon, if you follow their story, it's even for Google, Netflix, the likes of all these newbies who have not been there for more than, say, 10 years, right? These newbies, their stories are amazing. So taking example of Amazon, the time they take to bring a new product to the market, you would be amazed if I tell you that time, right? It's less than 10 seconds. So they have that entire infrastructure ready. So within 10 seconds, they can deploy a new product into their website. Correct? So that could be one of the measures that you can have as in the time to the market, how agile you are. And that when we are talking about this, keep at the back of your mind that we have to have that automation and all of those things in place to be able to move something from a development to the production, correct? And in front of your customers. Okay. So another kind of measure could be around your technology, your infrastructure, and the learning parameters, right? Employee learnings and things like that. So these could be different kind of parameters based on the industry. And definitely satisfaction of the employee, satisfaction of the customer. Very important factors. Over to
Thank
you,
you. Thanks,
Shubham.
Shananda. Thanks, Shananda. Um, I'm seeing a question. Can anyone share example how to achieve long-term sustainable growth in business agility or enterprise agility? Any takers? Can anyone share
Shubho,
example how to achieve long-term? Yes,
Shubho,
go ahead.
there were some questions before that as well. I just want to make sure that the people who posted their questions
Yeah,
before that.
I am seeing there is one question which is left out. That is, can you share an example of an Indian organization who have moved to enterprise agility but had to move back to old methods, right? So I can probably give an example
There is
here.
no
So
backward
I mean,
pass.
though we are trying to be for yeah, so today's discussion is not we are trying to become any framework, we are trying to become framework agnostic, so we don't have any specific inclination to any particular scaling framework. So we have got many in this industry, but yeah, whenever we are adopting enterprise agility, we need to have a framework, right? We need to have a structure in place. Now, it could be Spotify, it could be Safe, it could be Nexus, it could be Scrum at Scale, it could be Lace, right? It can be anything. So I have seen in my current organization, in one of the product development area, they have been adopting one of such scaling model. So, but what was happening is, even after doing their overall, right, a program wise planning, where they were keeping some capacity for the new features or the new stories, but they were all the times getting impacted by some of the customer demanding, right? So whenever there is a customer defects or escalated issues coming up, so all those plannings and those priorities or objectives were getting kind of overridden. So, and this has been a continuous push from the teams. Then why are we putting so much of effort on these refinement activity at the program level or something, right? So why are we going to do for so much of preparation? So recently, the management has taken a decision. So they have split the overall the organization into two area. So one is in still will continue to have a kind of time and material with the development or feature development kind of stuff, and whereas they have put a major chunk of the business or major chunk of the work into Kanban, pure Kanban model, to address these just in time ad hoc nature of work, because the client has been very much dissatisfied when the teams were teams kept on telling that we have got some priorities, right, which we set for next 2 months or so, and we cannot probably take up the new things unless those are having, as Shantanu rightly mentioned in his comment, that cost of delay, highest cost of delay. So I would not say like they have gone into old methods or waterfall, but yes, I have seen that, but not sure like whether this is going to be successful. But of course, like they are trying to address the concern or immediate concern of the customer, that when they are coming up with the escalated defect, how can we reduce the response time, right, by acting more just in time to address those things, right? So they have kept those two separate way of working to address these kind of complaints.
So yeah, I mean, like taking. So definitely we cannot take names. There will be so many names. That can also be a reason. But I can give you one example. Very recently, I was working with one of the interns from Accelerate, and he was intern with us for a couple of months, and I was working with them on to create some surveys, some things on millennials and agile and all that. Now, one day he came back to me and said that, how difficult is this agile transformation, by the way? I said, I don't know. What do you think? Uh, so he said that, what, two of my friends have joined as interns with another organization, and their manager has asked them to prepare an transformation plan for their company over the next 1 year for agile transformation. So I don't know which company is that. I don't know that, but I can assure you that's going to be a failure example. Two interns making a plan for an enterprise agile transformation in during their internship, definitely going to fail. That's how it is. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, Shubha,
Yeah,
I
let me
think
see like if
before,
there are. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead,
before
Shranjan.
before that, I think you had a question from the audience, that how to maintain the sustainability, right? So to add to that,
Correct.
right, how to maintain the sustainability, we can think of a mentoring, coaching, that kind of a thing in the organization. So it is a continuous process. It's a journey, right? It's a continuous process. Think of your family, right, where parents keep on saying the same good things over and over again. It's not a one-time job, right? Parents does not say that and go away, right? They keep on saying. If you do mistake, they maybe scold you, but after that they again put, okay, these are the best practices, or this is how you should do, or these are the guidelines. So we need to think in the same way. It's a mindset, right? It's a family mindset and organization mindset. I mean, if you consider on the people front, it's the same. So some people who can be coach, who can be mentors, they can continuously that mentoring and coaching over the course of the journey of this transformation. That's how you can go for a sustainability. That's my view. Yes, Shubha.
Yeah, I think we are on top of our time. So just by saying one thing, I'll pass it to Priyank, just to take a cue from what Suranjan just concluded. Yeah, so organizational transformation is not something which you can achieve overnight, right? It needs some time, right? You need to keep on focusing on that. You need to have your blessings, the buy-ins from the senior executives, your leadership, right? To keep on doing it. And most importantly, to change the culture of the organization, you need to change the organization as well, right? So a restructuring, proper structuring, all these things are needed. It's not so easy to go for such a higher level of enterprise level transformation. With this, I'll pass it to Priyank to have his concluding thoughts for today.
Yeah, thanks, Suru. And I don't have any conclusion mark much than that. I love the explanations which you guys have done, but just to add one dimension to it, an organization's agility and enterprise agility is directly proportional to its decision-making cycle time. You know, it's not about execution actually. Execution has its own constraint. Decision-making is a major factor. So if you pay more attention to enabling the decision making in your own terminology, I'm picking up where Suranjan left. How do you gauge the cycle time? Try out to identify what is the cycle time you have taken in past for your decision making on a subject, whereas what you are doing now. And it's a journey. It's a path to be agile. It cannot be a destination. Just like there were questions which as I was very interested to answer, but then as I have my role here restricted to just be a listener. So one of the question is, how do you gauge that? By Bhavan, who is from Surat and is also a ANI volunteer leader. So you cannot actually, but yes, you can in segments, and it's a journey. So there's no end state. You continue to go forward, and you continue to become more and more agile, and just like Sand Bolt, right? You become better, and then further better, and there is no end, and you have your own constraints there. So with that said, I just let's conclude this, and I really want to appreciate everyone, especially the audience first, for coming on such a busy day, which is a Friday, during the lunch time, which is very difficult to keep you awake. The conversation was amazing. So I want to thank everybody here, Suranjan, Aniruddha, Mohana, Sunanda, and Subroto. Collectively, you guys have done amazing job. So thank you for sharing your views. We look forward for more and more, collaborations with you, and as well as with everybody who is on call as a participant. So maybe you can come forward, become a panelist next time, or maybe become a moderator next time. This is an open for all community, and you can encourage others also who are interested, and you think that you can grow them and help them to be here and then share their ideas. So thank you everybody again. Bye bye. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks for
everyone.
having me.
Really enjoyed the